So, welcome everybody to the first episode that we will be putting out here on the Card Hedge YouTube channel. The goal with this is really to do exactly what we're doing with our platform and continue to just give as well of a rounded insight into the information going on in not only sports cards, but collectibles and NFTs as well that are sports related. And so, with that being said, we have a wonderful guest here with us today for the first episode, and that is Lou Papa. And he is in charge of Sports Card Exchange. And so, welcome.
Thank you, my
And
friend. I appreciate you guys having me.
yes, and we'd love to just have you maybe just give a brief little background story and bring us up to, like how you interact in the hobby now and things you've been up to.
Sure. No, I appreciate it. For those of you that know me in a space, I was a longtime financial advisor. Spent about 20 plus years in that area. Advising clients and small businesses, with all different asset values, and had a lot of fun doing that. But like many of us, we're looking for something else. Got a little burnout, and then found myself, selling my practice about 6, 7 years ago. And once I found a buyer, I had started to inch my way and kind of back into this space already. And a little bit just by doing some research, and I'd seen a couple of articles on ESPN about some high dollar cards that had sold for big money. And it was really cool because like I knew that I had copies of certain cards. Certainly they weren't in the conditions that warranted those big spends. And this was back in 2016 when I saw like the LeBron 1 of 1 sold for like 312,000. And but then the one that kind of caught my attention was the one of the two Wayne Gretzky PSA 10 OPC cards had sold for like $485,000 or something like that. So it was interesting because I knew I had the card, but mine was mangled. It was probably like a PSA or SGC4, but it kind of caught my attention and brought me back to a nostalgic place. And I started looking through my cards again. And since I had a little bit of money in my pocket, from the sale of my business, I started kind of dabbling back into this area, and I just kind of fell in love with it all over again, like I did as a kid, and then I just kind of kept building from there.
Yeah, and it's such a similar story to like, I mean, not the whole selling the business and getting back into it, but from the sense of like people who collected as a child and now grew up and have some disposable income and whatnot and have a bit more knowledge into investing in general, right? And understanding like rarities and supply and demand and whatnot. So
The
yeah,
parallels are amazing, from the space that I came from into what's happening here.
absolutely. So I mean, yeah, it really is, and it makes it fun also, with it being attached to more of like a person's career and that individual's skill set and ability to um, live their life in like an upright way as opposed to like an entire company, right? So yeah, that's very interesting. So what are kind of some of the ways in which you look for investments and or like opportunities to buy some things that you are interested in or that caught your eye?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I kind of consider myself more of a value investor. Like I'll take a look at, I guess I follow like the uber modern market to kind of see where those prices are, because that's where a lot of the high end speculation is done in the card space. Um, so when I see prices, just some astronomical prices for like very current players, like guys that have played 3, 4 years, um, I'll try to equate that to do the research to say, okay, like who had been those equivalent like players, 15, 20 years ago, and try to take a look to see, okay, how much of a variance is there, for guys that have had, potentially even better careers, so, that's what kind of drives me, one way or the other. It's just more of a, when you see kind of things getting out over their skis a bit, like in 2020, we had this crazy base card movement, that, I mean, that just got wild. But, when I saw that, and then I saw like some modern guys, like even like a Kawhi Leonard, had a gold prism that went for, a little over 6-figure inserts, and, because I felt like it was undervalued. And I think that led me to, a pretty successful transition, because I was able to acquire the 97 game jersey, which was, certainly a pinnacle card for him, and, wound up making a record sale with that. So that's kind of the way I approach it. I don't put, I don't put too much of my portfolio into like super uber modern unless the guy's like legacy is fairly cemented. So like right now, I'm pretty invested in Steph Curry, but I feel comfortable there.
Yeah, which makes sense, right? So, I mean, I agree. You cut out a little bit there, but for the most part, I caught it all, and I would agree wholeheartedly with all of that. And it really looks like, as you see everybody wrapped up in like right now and right here, and to your point, you go back and you look at some relative players, or even players that have more accolades and more reasoning to have just those overall career stats, and they seem, a lot of them, underpriced compared to the guys playing now, right? And
Yeah, and I think that's, there's an answer for that. I mean, I feel like our space, in cards right now is certainly getting younger, which is good, because that's what's going to drive the next generation forward and keep us, and keep this hobby alive for a long time. So I'm really excited about, when I go to a show or just what I see on social media, like the guys that are really, driving influences in this space are very young, versus a guy like me in my mid 40s. So it's natural for, the younger adults who are now dealers and, high end influencers in the space, to collect what they're seeing, because they don't have any, relationship to the past, like in the 80s and the 90s. Like I look at it as I was pretty blessed, to be able to, I've seen the full careers of Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, well, not all of Magic Johnson, but a lot of it. Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, so like there's, there's that helps me, through experience, but, I can also understand, where the younger guys are coming from. And they're like, hey man, I love Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and, and Luka Doncic, and guys like that versus, say like a Larry Bird or a Joe Montana. So it's really exciting, to kind of see, what everybody's doing. But for me, there's always going to be that, romance with the nostalgia of the past, with these guys that have put up pretty much, unbreakable records, no matter what these new kids do. So it's fun.
yeah, so, I mean, couldn't agree more, especially with like the younger generation, the younger kids coming in. I mean, it makes perfect sense, right? Like all those players you named that are current they're amazing. You know,
Oh, these guys are doing tremendous things. I mean, it's powerful.
That Chiefs Bills game was, my lord. Like that had to be one of the best finishes ever.
I feel like as a fan, I feel like all of us, were just, it was a treat last weekend. I mean, you had 3 last second field goals to end the first 3 games, and the road team won all 3 games. And then you see and then it gets capped off by that night game where, I mean, good Lord. I mean, that fourth quarter was absolutely wild, just let alone the last 4 or 5 minutes of that game. I mean, just 25 points in the last couple of minutes. And man, Mahomes and Allen, I mean, it was just unbelievable. I was just on the edge of my seat. I just you couldn't believe what you're watching.
Yeah, no, it really, I was at the barbershop, is it, I can't remember, Wednesday, and we were talking about the game, and I was sharing how like it really felt like those old school heavyweight boxing matches where it's like this, almost like a Rocky fight, right? Where it's like this guy comes out and just lands like 3 breakers, The dude goes down. You're like, oh, that's it. It's over. Gets back up. He lands a few. The other guy goes down. And it was just back and forth.
It was. I mean, all those games were very reminiscent, like you said, of like the 90s battles between like the Cowboys and the 49ers and the Packers. Like you had like those 3-4 teams that were just very, very good, for like the entire decade. And then certainly the basketball rivalries. I miss that, with today's NBA. There's only maybe 3-4 teams, that are like that. But the football last weekend was, man, it was even for an older guy like myself, I was like, man, we are in for a treat with this new generation. I mean, I feel like football is in a really, really good spot with these young stud quarterbacks, and these, kind of like hotshot offensive coordinators and head coaches. I mean, these guys they're smart, they're innovative. I mean, like it's really exciting to see. I mean, I just love it as a fan.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the offenses, I mean, I know we're on a little tangent right now, but the offenses are just so fun. And like the young wide receivers with CeeDee Lamb and Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, it's like, dude, these guys are studs. Like just absolutely
I know. And it breaks my heart that my crappy Eagles could have had a couple of those guys in the last couple drafts, and we just passed and passed on those guys, and we got a bunch of dirt except for Devontae Smith. Thank goodness. Like, I mean, he looks good, but we could have had Justin Jefferson, we could have had DK Metcalf, and we just passed on everybody.
I feel the same way as a Pats fan. Oh my gosh, our wide receiver core is hurting right now. Anyway, that was a nice little rant, but so
hey, I think it's relative, and I think the audience, this is what people want to talk about, and it's so much fun. Right. So, my tip of my cap to all the guys that have invested heavily in Josh Allen and Burrow and Mahomes. I mean, it's going to be exciting to see when those cards that they're buying now go to auction. I mean, good gosh, they might break some all-time records. It could be a lot of fun to see.
Yeah, and honestly, in like full transparency, I did not think Joe Burrow would come back and be a rocket like he has after his knee injury. I mean, that was just gruesome. And the fact that he has makes me real happy for him. Like for the Bengals organization and fans, it's just like, dude, you got to clap for them. Like
I agree. I have a neighbor that moved here, like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, and he's a Bengals fan, and because he lived there all his life, and he got tickets and went to the game here in Nashville, and like he was just, I think, like it was emotional. It was kind of like, I mean, I remember when the Eagles won the Super Bowl in 2017, how emotional it was for me, to finally see one. And I mean, that was the first playoff win for the Bengals in 30 years. I mean, like my buddy was like 6 years old the last time they won a playoff game. So, and here they are now in, in the AFC Championship game. Now they've won 2 playoff games, and he's just they're just rolling. So I don't know. I think they're in trouble this week, but we'll have to see what happens.
It should be a juggernaut. Should be a fun game. And looking back on it now, though, the ROI upside on if you were buying Burrow the week or two after he hurt his knee to right now is astronomical.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a buddy. He kind of like his space in the hobby, is just kind of like doing like high end quarterbacks. Like he'll take a look at the draft and see what he likes, and he loves LSU. Like he's a big fan and kind of lived there for a bit, so he loved Burrow, and he was buying all of it. I mean, absolutely all of it, like everything that he could get his hands on. When Burrow first came out, and then even last year during the dip when he got hurt. So I'm pretty sure there'll be an announcement in the not too distant future. Like he sold one of his big Burrow cards for like $500,000. I mean, so, it's life-changing money. And you can see why everybody gets so excited about it. 'Cause it's like, it's kind of like real life, gambling or whatever, like right through the TV of like, okay, I have this guy, and if he can do X, then all of a sudden the payday's there.
Right.
So I'm super happy for all those investors. Josh Allen, obviously investors are doing great. Mahomes. Yeah. So, I'm elated because it's good for the space in general. So, congratulations to all those guys.
Absolutely. So before we transition into what drove you into building like your own brand and the stuff behind that. We just kind of segue on what you were saying, the investors in these high end cards, but even these young quarterbacks now. Um, I personally have been taking advantage of these fractional sites. And I find that like very fun because it gives you the exposure to like the card that you're talking about with your buddy. But like clearly I couldn't go buy that card right now from your buddy. But if I
Right.
can buy a few shares for like 5, 10, 15 bucks a piece
Yep.
of that card and participate, I've been finding it very interesting and also just very the growth, like the amount of volume being traded is just continuously growing and going up. And so I know you have some experience with uh, both like both ends of the fractional sites. So I just wanted to have you touch on it a bit here.
I'm a big fan of fractional. I just think that you know, in order to continue to elevate the space forward, something like that is needed. Because just as you said, you know, with the prices of some of the stuff is just are getting so high that, you know, it's already, you know, forcing, you know, a lot of guys to partner up with other guys, you know, so that in and of itself is almost a fractional, you know, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you have half ownership in something, or, you know, or a third, or however they're doing it. So, you know, the Burrow card in particular, right? I mean, you know, the buyer, you know, that gentleman may have deep pockets, or, you know, maybe it was like a hedge fund that he sold it to. You know, I'm not
Right.
at liberty to say, but you know, I think like Rally and Otis and Collectible, you know, they're going to help all the rest of us, you know, continue to stay in the space and make investments the same way, you know, that these higher end dealers guys, you know, who've been around for a while and have, you know, significant sums of money, we can, you know, we can still participate, you know, in a fun way where you could say, hey, I own a piece of the PSA 8 Mickey Mantle, or the SGC 3 Babe Ruth, you know, that sold for, you know, $6 million,
Mm-hmm.
um, or Honus Wagner, you know, if it becomes available. So, you know, to me, I think they have a very, you know, unique and important place in the hobby. And yeah, I've done both. Like I've consigned, you know, to a fractional company, and I've also done buyouts through them. You know, so I think that sometimes it's really cool too, because they'll bring pieces that you don't even know exist, or you
Right.
would never know how to find them.
Yep.
So then when they bring them to the market, you know, if you can put together the money, you know, for it, or find a partner or two, be like, hey, you know, I've always wanted XYZ, you know, like in my case, it was a couple of pairs of sneakers that I really thought, you know, had a lot of upside, you know, along with the Steph Curry cards that, you know, I bought with my partner Court. So, you know, there's just unbelievable uniqueness, you know, to what they're offering. And, you know, I'm happy to see it, because it's tough. I mean, like it's tough to always, you know, to buy everything that you want at auction and pay the auction fees and things like that. So, you know, I hope fractional's around for a long time.
Yeah. And one of the points that you brought up, which I think gets just overlooked so much, is how sites like this, to the point you made, are going to help elevate just the whole hobby because it brings more eyes. And so, being like heavy in the NFT space, like I am, I see a lot of people from that space being exposed to these higher end cards and that whole uh, ecosystem now through like Rally, because Rally has some Bored Apes and some punks up there. So
Right.
all of these people in the NFT space are going there. But when you go to these platforms, it's not like you go on and you only see the NFT. Like you see the NFT, the wine, the cards, the books, the cars, the watches. So it exposes you to a lot more. And what I'm seeing is that once you enter into one of those platforms, um, you don't just like you're not just there for that one thing that brought you there. Then you start looking around and you're like, oh, this is real cool. And to your point, like there's just stuff on there that you would never know. Like they have books that are like inscribed to JFK, or like there's one of those, like from the author.
It's really cool.
Yeah, it
It's
really
like a
is.
mall or something. I mean,
Yeah,
and they're smart the way they do it. Obviously they're super talented and intelligent people that are building out the platforms, and yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, they're once you get in there, they want you to stay in there, almost like a casino, right? Where you can't find
right,
the door to get out. They're like, "Hey,
right,
here come the drinks," and you sit down over here. And the next thing you know,
right.
you're in front of your computer, and and even for like a novice like myself who doesn't really participate at all in like the NFT space or anything like that, it's a good place for me to get education though. And that's why I
Right.
think like what's happening with Card Hedge in particular that attracted me to starting to look at the website and to see what you guys were doing is I think alternative assets are going to continue to grow, and there's going to be more and more robust offerings, some of which are going to be great, some of which are going to probably suck, but they can't be ignored. And I think there's right now, unfortunately, I think there's some guys who are very passionate about it, who I feel like they feel like their voice is getting drowned out a bit, by some of the card guys, and then vice versa. Like it kind of goes both ways. So I think with you guys, taking in all the data from everything, it'll be similar to looking at like a rally. For them having a platform, for all the different assets, you guys will have all the different data, and that's going to be important because none of this stuff is going away. There's way too much money being invested,
100%.
into all these areas, crypto and NFT and cards, and the list goes on and on and on. So, it's and again for for somebody like myself, and in the mid to late 40s, like it's good for me. Like I have to continue to learn. I have to continue to evolve, or else you get left behind. So, it's I'm looking for sort of an all-in-one encompassing place to get a lot of information, so that I can kind of try to sit down, absorb it, figure out where to go to ask questions. So I think it's really important work that you guys are doing.
Yeah, yeah, I appreciate that.
Having trouble managing your valuable collection and finding price transparency in the sports card market? Me too. That's why I use Card Hedge. Card Hedge is a brilliant price analysis and collection management tool. Track all your grades across PSA, CSG, HGA, SGC, BGS, and as well as your raw cards. Card Hedge pulls their research from sites like eBay, StarStock, MySlabs, and Golden Auctions. You want an accurate picture of the sports card market? Yeah, me too. With over tens of thousands of cards in their system, Card Hedge is the definitive sports card price guide. Quickly search by card, player, or set. Sort by price or percentage change. It has a lot of awesome advanced features. So what are you waiting for? Join today for only $14.99.
So let's use that then to move into, what moved you to start the sports card exchange brand, and kind of like what was your like cause and idea and goal with starting that.
Yeah, so it's similar to the leadoff question around like what my background is and was. Um, it really became more of a okay, what am I going to do next kind of thing, because I knew I was pretty burnt out and tired from the advising side of, for lack of a better term, Wall Street, and like I said, I kind of bumped into, just catching a couple of articles caught my eye. And then, since I was a little bit more flush with cash, I started to like reperuse eBay, in like 2016. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, like all these cool cards that I could have never afforded when I was collecting as a young kid and into my late teens. All of a sudden I'm like, man, I can really kind of do this the way I always wanted to do it back then. 'Cause I joke around, like if anybody ever met my mom and they asked her like, hey man, like what did Lou always want to do, when he was growing up, like, she would come right out and say like he wanted to own a baseball card shop, like, I mean, I loved it back then. But you get away from it, when you get older and go to college and meet girls and start a family and a career. So when I knew I was selling my business, and then I started to do the research in cards, I sort of felt this nostalgia and this, sort of romanticism coming back into the space of like, man, just looking at all my stuff. And then we were moving from Pennsylvania to here in Nashville. And, for the longest time, like I couldn't find my old cards. I had all my high end at the time, like all my little $25 and $50 single cards that weren't graded and just sitting in my box for 25 years. And then my wife found my old boxes of like all the sets that I had and stuff like that. And it was just like, it was almost like, the Lord was like drawing me. He's like, hey, here's a reminder, of what you once loved, maybe you should consider this. And then I started really thinking about it. And, I was coming up and I started thinking about like, man, like, I wonder if I could do this, in some kind of small way, to make a couple extra bucks while I was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And then by the grace of God, I mean, like I just kept at it, came up with a company name. I've always been pretty decent at branding because, I branded my own business, when I was a financial advisor and I went to college for marketing. So, it was just a matter of kind of getting up to speed on social media, because I hadn't really, you weren't allowed to do much of it, when you're in a regulated financial advising industry. So I had to, most of the stuff that I was doing was just on LinkedIn. But now, once I got up to speed with Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all the social platforms, it just kind of took on a life of itself. And then, card values kind of started going up. And next thing you know, you're learning about the different auction houses and who to communicate with. And it's unbelievable. I mean, it's just been like this massive snowball.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it sounds real fun. Like trying to put myself in the shoes of like coming back into it and having that excitement sparked again, and then being able to like actually move around and do some of the things that like you truly want, instead of just settling and being like, I'll go with this. And then turning that and kind of catching the upside as more and more attention and money comes into the space. And now, to see like where your brand is at and the different like buys and sells that you're doing is just really cool. Like some of the pieces that you have just like real cool to look at. Wow.
I appreciate it. I mean, I think I feel like my little niche in this space, I mean, I'm just, just one person, just like anybody else. And, and everybody's kind of doing their own thing and figuring out what they like, which is what I really like most about it is you can collect what you love, you can invest in what you love, and, sort of where you feel comfortable. Not everybody's going to do it my way, and I'm not going to do, what a lot of other people are doing. But I do feel like, if you can find something that you can get comfortable with, and just kind of like master it, I feel like there's, there's good money to be made, there's a good way for you to become like a good presence in the space, and do some good stuff. So I feel like right now, like I kind of specialize in the deals that hardly anybody else would do. I mean, like I'm not afraid, of certain things, and, I'll do deals on like high-end deals on cards that don't comp, so like I'll take some of that stuff on, if I really understand the rarity, the scarcity, what the card means, where it came from, and I think as more and more people understand that, or kind of, if they do the research on certain things, you'd be surprised what, could turn out to be a diamond in the rough that on the surface doesn't look like it's like all this great card. Like, you wouldn't know it, but the deal that I just did last week, I mean, like I'm still picking out from it, but it's a deal that in hindsight, a lot of people are like, oh man, I would have done that in a heartbeat, but taking on the inventory, hiring help, trying to figure out how to get it home. I mean, like, it's a deal that not, a lot of people just wouldn't do, because it's a pain in the neck.
Right. 100%, which, I think that's like a perfect opportunity to talk about how, you have officially, teamed with Card Hedge and become a partner with us, more so behind the scenes. And to the exact point, this is why I was going to save it a little bit for later, but it just fit perfect. To the point that you were just making, like a lot of our conversations back and forth, and kind of getting to know each other and vetting each other out came down to, that of your knowledge, your expertise in just different deal making environments, like working strictly hand in hand with some of these fractional sites, searching out deals, like you just said, that most people wouldn't really be able to conceive the value of, but with the knowledge you have, you're able to do that and put it together, and then through your brand, able to share that with the other collectors that are here in the hobby. And so that's really what was important to us, teaming with somebody who was on the ground, always traveling around at these different shows, able to have, access to different information and different news that may be going around that just not everybody gets, right? And that plays into us really wanting to just be a source of information. Like for us, it really doesn't care, and it really doesn't matter where we're getting the info from, as long as the info is coming from a solid source, right? Like we as a platform aren't biased to, PSA, BGS, SGC, this or that. Like that doesn't really matter. What matters is being able to bring the most well-rounded information that we can. And you plugging you in with us helps us as a platform to bring more news that, we may otherwise not have been able to. Right.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm thrilled to play a small part in it. I think, as I was mentioning to you in a private conversation a week or so ago, there's there's been, a couple of guys that are in this space, that do something similar. And, you can tell that they're very passionate around what they do, and that there's really significant opportunity here. There's the technology is not easy to build. There's only, a handful of guys that are going to sit there and put in that kind of time, effort, and energy, and then all the contact pieces, and being able to aggregate it and, and help, the industry at large, or grading companies at large. There's so much coming, and it's coming so quickly that, you'd be silly to think that there's no opportunity there. I mean, I have to imagine that what we're seeing today versus what this is going to look like in 3 to 5 years is going to be dramatically different. And like I said, the outside of the card world, the other parts of the alternative space, I mean, that's some of it's over my head, but at the same time, it's coming so quickly that it's important to a lot of people, because for as much money as I might invest in cards, other guys are investing an equal amount of money into NFTs, or NBA Top Shot, like if that sort of revitalizes itself. I mean, you can tell that there's obviously crypto, is massive, and only going to get bigger, despite the fact that we're sort of seeing this pretty healthy sized correction right now. But none of that is going away. So the fact that you guys are going to tackle it, and be able to provide all of that information and not just lean one way or the other, saying, hey, this is better than that, I think in a neutral environment is really, really important, because what we don't want to do is lose people's enthusiasm for alternative assets. And the easiest way to do that is just not acting professional, not helping people, not pointing them in the right direction, acting like you're too busy for them or that you're too good for them, like things like that, like, that you do see from time to time. with people that you interact with. So I looked at, when this opportunity came to be, and, when it was discussed, I was like, you know what, this is kind of the perfect fit for, even just try to how I try to handle my own business, on a day-to-day basis. I've been just kind of, releasing the videos of the collection that I found, and I've gotten tons and tons of messages, and I answer each one. Like, it's just, you got to take the time and you want to do it, even if it gets a little overwhelming. And I think when you guys put all this data together in all these different spaces, everybody's going to be really excited, because they're going to have one-stop shopping, and point click and say, hey, this did this did this. It's legitimate. I can point to it here. And then it kind of takes on a life of itself. I have the utmost respect for, you guys, your competitors. What's being built out is really, really impressive. And I think that I'll be shocked, if it doesn't, continue to move forward, and, more and more people getting an interest in it, because it's kind of like its own sports analytics now, like, how like in baseball, you see, especially come playoff time, right? Like you have all these managers who, subscribe to like certain analytics, like, oh, left versus right, you got to do this. And that's really what is ultimately being built. And everybody's going to need it and want it. So, like if somebody like me needs it and wants it, and like you said, I'm kind of an amateur in certain spaces. Imagine, for the super high end, tech people that really understand it and are really putting a lot of time, effort, and energy into those other areas. It only makes natural sense to gravitate here.
Yeah. And I think just as time goes on like the surface level, I feel like not many people understand just like how much money is going to move into just the alternative asset space. And, like you said, 3-5 years from now, when Fanatics takes over, my gut is that the landscape's just going to be different, way different. You'll still have physical cards. I fully believe that Fanatics will have NFTs as well. Whether that's like them putting it out or these side deals that you already see on like the Flow blockchain and the Wax blockchain with Topps and NBA and Leaf. I fully expect Fanatics to be deep in that space as well. And with all of that being said, to your point, the more money that comes in, the way I see it playing out is the more money that comes in, the more big money that looks to come in. And those big players, to the point you made, are the ones that they don't move money until they've already seen pages and pages and pages of data, right? Like that's just how they work. And so, that's really like the goal here, is to be able to have just serious amounts of aggregated data from different aspects, but all in the collectible realm, to be able to, like, we're not here to tell you this is how you should invest, or this is who you should look at, or this company is what you should grade your cards with. We're just here to be like, look, here's all the data. Do with it what works with your style.
And that's what's important to me, because I don't, in addition to what you're saying, especially with, Fanatics and the significant mergers that have taken place over the last 18 months, I expect more consolidation, more M&A. And, with that, unfortunately, it's going to start to, like, you're going to start drawing battle lines almost. It's going to be like, hey, a lot of guys are going to be like, only PSA, or only XYZ auction house or what have you. So I think, neutral, right down the middle data is going to be really important. And, that way there's no spin involved. You don't have to worry about, anybody's like, hey, are they only leading me this way because they have a vested interest one way or the other? I certainly don't want to, like, that's not for me to say, and it's just the same way as like in collecting, investing. I mean, to me, the most important thing is each person needs to just understand who they are as an investor, what kind of risk they're willing to assume, and then make their decisions accordingly. Because, inevitably some decisions won't work out. And when they don't, you have to be able to handle what that downside is, like what's the repercussion of that. And if you can't, then you can say, okay, I'm not as aggressive as I thought I was. Right. So that it all sort of aligns, I think in that way. And like I say, I would never want to be, like there's like market movers, for example. I mean, like, there's too much of I think you should invest this way. Look at this, look at this, look at this, and it's like, it's kind of like being a bookie. I mean, like there's no upside. You're going to be right sometimes. And then you're going to pump pound your chest, pump your chest out. And then when you're wrong, you're going to go into hiding a little bit and be like, I never said that. And then people are going to start calling you out. That's not what we're trying to do. I think it's very much more about like, let's collect good data, make sure that it's accurate, put it out there and collect enough of it so that it appeals to the masses, no matter what your interest level is. And that way we can be a good all-inclusive environment, for everybody. And then, you start getting some group chats going and say, hey, did you see this new piece? Like Discord. Discord's great for that. And people can jump into the groups that interest them most. So I'm hoping that, down the road, we'll be able to have something similar, where it says like, hey, did you see the new NFT data, the Card Hedge put out on X, whatever it is, Bored Ape or what have you, because some of the other guys aren't going to do it. And then, maybe there's an opportunity there. But I think, especially if you're right, I mean, like if Fanatics does come in and they're going to have, whether it's going to be digital cards or NFTs that are ingrained in it somehow, then we have to have the data. Like it's going to be a must. So might as well start collecting it now.
Yeah. Well said. We've been going for a bit now. I don't want to keep you too long. So we'll kind of.
I blocked out time, so I promise you can ask whatever you need.
No, this has been great. We wanted to get together and do this and put out, the official announcement that you've, come on the team and you're helping, behind the scenes with just expertise and knowledge and consulting, if you will. Yep. And again,
we're gonna help make the brand bigger, and more recognizable.
Right, exactly.
You got to get me one of those cool sweatshirts though.
Yeah, for sure, we'll do that. And we are going to set up another interview so that we can have an interview with you and your partner who recently purchased a very beautiful set. If you want to just touch on it real quick.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, and I appreciate you guys had reached out about that even prior to connecting the dots here, to have me take an interest in Card Hedger. So, we'll do that exclusive, with you guys. Court and I purchased the inaugural NT set. So it's 2009, 2010 National Treasures, which would be, similar to like the 0304 Exquisite from Upper Deck, right? It's that first launch of the new product.
Right.
And as luck would have it, with Exquisite, they had LeBron and Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade and Carmelo. And then here, in the 09-10, we got Steph Curry, James Harden, Drew Holiday. I know Blake Griffin isn't, as good as he once was, but, if you look back 5-6 years, I mean, he was tremendous. And then you have DeMar DeRozan, who's had a great career. So, we were thrilled to, be able to put it together. It was a deal that, was brought to us by Brock Hayden at PWCC. And, we took a swing at it and, we're able to get it done. But, we definitely look forward to chatting with you guys about that. And, we'll show you some cards. And, I think that was an exciting move, for us, but also for the hobby, just to kind of say like, hey, there's been a few lumps, to kind of start the beginning of the year, with a couple of little scandals, if you will. But, all in all, there's so many good things happening that, I think like we just keep our heads up, keep smiling and, just kind of keep doing what we can do. And, I think it's just a great space for, so many people, to feel included and kind of share our passions around cards and collecting and, kind of geek out together a little bit. So Fort and I are looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing some of those cards. Yeah, no, this was great. Thank you for putting this time aside to join me for this first episode. I'm personally looking forward to working with you more, getting to know you better, following the different deals that you have coming up in the future. And, we'll just keep it moving and continue to stay committed to just giving as much unbiased and pure data as possible.
Yeah, I appreciate your guys, interest in me, and I'm going to do my best to, to lend a hand, and I'm looking forward to, growing the brand with you guys, and helping helping you guys become a success, and and get everything that you want to do. It's a heck of a vision, that started, being built, a couple of years back, and here we are now, and you're starting to see some of the fruits of the labor come true. So now it's just time to kind of ratchet it up. But the connections and the people that you're going to interact with now, I'm happy to make those introductions, and we're gonna have some fun doing it. So I think only good things ahead in a really fun way.
Yeah, absolutely, agreed. And that's a nice high note to end this off on. So that will conclude the first episode. Thank you everybody for watching. If you have not checked out cardhedger.com, please do. I'll leave a link in the description, and we hope to see you around and have you just continue to stop by and check out the new interviews. Thanks.